It started as a fiery accident that led to the evacuation of 115 workers and the search for 11 others who were never found.
So when did you realize that you were under investigation?
I was not aware I was a target of the investigation.
A well drilled by the BP oil company blew out, killing 11 workers on the Deepwater Horizon rig and unleashing a gusher into the Gulf of Mexico for 87 days.
April 20th, 2010. British Petroleum's Deepwater Horizon oil rig was rocked with an explosion. 2 days later, the oil rig sank, leaving the Macondo well gushing. As a BP engineer, Kurt Mix played a key role in capping the Macondo well. He and a team of seasoned engineers worked tirelessly for 90 days, often without sleep and little time off.
Wait for your mother.
Today, Mix is living a quiet, peaceful life with his wife in Texas.
Wow.
This is drastically different from the morning of April 24th, 2012, when federal agents raided his home.
My wife got a knock on the door. It wasn't a knock. There was an urgency. She describes it as she thought it was my neighbor knocking because their house was on fire. So she actually was jarred from her sleep, went to the door and opened it, and was actually grabbed and pulled outside our home. And FBI agents in Kevlar vests with guns drawn went room to room in search of me. But I was on my way to work. They took me into custody, processed me at the FBI location here in Houston, then brought me downtown to the federal courthouse.
6:36 happening today. The first person charged in connection with the BP oil spill will be arraigned in federal court right here in New Orleans.
Federal prosecutors looked for criminal wrongdoing, and they focused their investigation on people who were lauded heroes for capping the well, Kurt Mix and his colleagues. In September 2010, shortly after the well was capped, Mix handed over his meticulously kept records documenting every stage of the crisis.
During that collection process, I also had my iPhone. It wasn't collected. After that, I thought I was done.
So Kurt Mix went on with his life. Almost a full year later, the government came and asked for his cell phone, but Mix had already deleted some of his text messages. Those deleted electronic records are what led to Kurt Mix being indicted in 2 counts of obstruction of justice. Joan McPhee was Kurt Mix's lawyer.
As the case proceeded, presumably because the government recognized the weakness of the text message deletion charges, they sought to strengthen their hand by adding in a superseding indictment alleged voicemail deletions.
In December 2013, the case was tossed out due to a technicality, but the federal government would not rest and wanted a new trial centered around the voicemail deletions. 2 years later, prosecutors dropped all felony charges in exchange for pleading guilty to a misdemeanor charge for deleting text messages.
Today, the Department of Justice finally acknowledged that I did not engage in any act to commit obstruction of justice.
The government spent millions of taxpayer dollars, took years to prosecute, brought 4 dozen felony charges against 4 individuals, and the result was 0 felony convictions. Some might believe a loss of such magnitude would cause the government to rethink its strategy in corporate criminal prosecutions. Instead, it has doubled down. Last year, Deputy Attorney General Sally Quillian Yates issued a memorandum. Former federal prosecutor Matt Miner explains.
Through the Yates memo, the Department of Justice conveyed its new level of expectation of the degree of cooperation expected from corporations, from businesses that are cooperating in investigations.
Now, as a condition of settling civil allegations with the government, companies will be required to help the Department of Justice gather information that could be used to criminally prosecute their own employees. In short, the government wants to prosecute more individuals, and what happened to Kurt Mix could now be much more common as a result of this Department of Justice policy change.
What have you learned from all of this?
It gives me great concern for the future, especially a future crisis. Will the best people respond? will the safest and most expedited solution be found? Will they be allowed to work as we did in an open, transparent, collaborative, spontaneous environment? Or will they spend all of their time looking over their shoulder and creating a record for when the Department of Justice comes calling?
I'm Amy Jacobson. For more stories, go to facesoflawsuitabuse.org.